I'm Brendan, and CompNow, the principal sponsor of the Fuse Cup, are happy to present today's esports webinar. I have with me Dan Martinez from the Fuse Cup and Ray Nashar, who is the digital learning coach at Wesley College in Melbourne. We have a great prize up for grabs today for a lucky school. The best question in the chat will get a team registration of 4 students as well as a Fuse Cup ready Nintendo Switch pack, so your school can join in the fun next year. We will announce the winner in the follow-up email after the webinar. So let's get into it. Dan, do you want to start by giving us a rundown of the Fuse Cup and what does it mean to the schools?
Absolutely, Brendan. So the Fuse Cup is an international esports competition, but it's really designed to help students develop their digital wellbeing and online safety. So what that means for schools is that schools are able to participate in a safe, supported and structured esports competition that's run by teachers all around Australia and Asia.
And Ray, do you want to tell us what your experience has been like with Fuse? How did you promote it in the school? What was the kids' responses and how did the parents feel about it?
Yeah, great question. I think my experience started off with Fuse Cup right from the early days. This year we introduced it to Wesley College, and the response has just been overwhelmingly positive, especially from the students, as you could probably imagine.
Yeah.
They pretty much just lose their minds when you raise the idea, let alone tell them it's going to actually take place and happen. The students, that is, and you're never really sure what parents might be thinking.
Yep.
But we create the opportunity, we put it out there, and the response so far has been excellent. We've had one student who won and qualified to get through to the competition. And he just threw his hands in the air and screamed out yes, and said that now my mum's going to buy me a Elite controller. So apparently, if he got in, it was going to be rewarded.
No, that's
so
awesome.
That was brilliant. Yeah. And we've got another parent who emailed just to say thank you so much. I think this is brilliant. That you've got content creators and kids who are streaming online and doing all of those sorts of things as well.
Yep.
And this just gives them a safe, because of what Dan said earlier about how he teaches the online safety and the rest of it, that becomes part of the experience and gets the students thinking about things that they may not have thought of on their own.
Great. Probably a question for both of you actually. So one thing you mentioned about the eSafety, etc. I know that one of the key things with Fuse is that the events are only done at the school. Do you want to talk to that, Dan, maybe about why that is?
Yeah, so we have live events that happen in schools where students converge on a competition and all play against each other. But we also have an online competition that happens only in schools. The reason we've chosen to go with the model that's in schools is because we know in schools students can be supported, we can set up a safe environment, and that we can model those behaviours we want them to learn and develop through positive gaming.
And Ray, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the emphasis on, as Dan was saying, on the social side of it, and making sure that we're noticing and naming explicitly what is happening in terms of how students relate to each other.
Yep.
Okay, the forum is esports, but the I guess underlying message is about being positive, avoiding the pitfalls and the negative things that might come from this.
Yep.
And framing it in a way, as adults, framing it for our students in a way that it is something that can be of benefit, but be careful of these parts of it, instead of saying like traditionally video games are video games and there's absolutely nothing of benefit in there at all.
Yep.
Which is just untrue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, very good. And look, that probably leads me to a question that I've got as well. I think historically there's been a bit of a stigma around, let's say it's a male-dominated environment around the esports program. I know with Fuse, Dan, you've added Just Dance to the program, which is fantastic. And I know that's obviously as a bid to get more females engaged in the program. You've got Just Dance at the school at Wesley. Could you talk about those teams, what they look like and how that's been adopted at the school?
Yeah. And so what they look like, you name it, all sorts of students from all over the place are willing to come in. So, and one of the things I absolutely love about this is seeing the girls get involved as well, and just and people, because it's an equal playing field, for the males and the females, the boys and the girls. So it's completely gender neutral as well. If we're saying, if we're talking genders, there's the teams are mixed up, they're playing against each other, and it just comes down to their skill. And so being able to see those students who couldn't represent their school or just didn't have, the passion for, say, physical sports perhaps, or the ability, can jump in here and just absolutely shine in a way that is just not possible for them otherwise.
Yeah, right. Fantastic. Dan, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's great to provide opportunities to students who sometimes fall through the cracks. And that's what esports does really well. The great thing I love about something like Just Dance is not only is it very inclusive, but the environment that you see during training sessions or competitions is so encouraging. It's not just 4 or 5 kids dancing, it's everyone dancing. So you've got, kid from Wesley dancing and their whole team behind them supporting them and dancing as well. So it's actually quite a lot of fun. We also get the teachers involved and have a bit of a daggy dance off as well, which is always a bit of fun.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, one thing I'm definitely curious about, Ray, is from the outside looking in, and probably some of the people that are watching this webinar today, is to understand how they build their team. Obviously, there's only 4 places in the team available, and I would assume, as you said, that the kids were very excited that when you announced that you were going to be doing the Fuse Cup, there would have been, I'm not sure, you can tell us how many that actually put their hand up for it. How did you bring that group of students across, I'm assuming, multiple campuses as well, down to teams? How did you do that?
Yes, that was a bit of a complex task. We had, because we have 3 main campuses at Wesley, and so wanted to make sure that each campus was able to have equal opportunity to qualify.
Yep.
And so we ran our own tournaments internally in order to bring it down to the 4 from each campus that are going to go to the state finals and compete against the other schools. And that's a whole event in itself. So as Dan mentioned, one team will be playing, or one person will be playing and dancing, and it wasn't during the qualifying games internally. It wasn't just their team or their supporters dancing with them. Everyone who was there waiting for their turn was just up and dancing, and just the whole place
having a ball.
It was a big party. Whilst we're trying to keep score and the rest as well, which is great too, because you get the kids to get involved there as well. So so it's a lot of fun, but and they're good sports. And if they miss out, some of them will go off and they'll be still buzzing and talking about it. Some of them feel maybe take it a bit harder than others, and that's an opportunity for learning and growth right there that we pick up on. And then in the end, the team that makes it is just absolutely stoked.
I've got, I'm sure you've probably got something to add there, Dan, but before we move on to your response, one thing I want to ask you there, Ray, is that once the team is selected and they're off competing, what's the mood like around the school? So is it publicised out the way the team's performing? How does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it's hard to hide it, the excitement and the lines to get into the room and all the rest of it is huge.
Yep.
And people get curious, and when they see a switch around the school, kids are asking questions, teachers are asking questions. So it does become a whole school thing, and I love to capture video, so I just grab my phone or my iPad or whatever it might be, get a bit of get some shots, maybe throw it into an app where I can just tidy it up and share it, which I did when we were at the tournament as well. So a bit of internal promotion and celebration of what the kids have been up to.
Yeah, fantastic. Now I'll go back to you, Dan. I know we've had conversations about this previously, but for the people that are watching, what sort of assistance can you offer to help them, whittle down from what could be 50, 100 students down to 4? How can you help?
Yeah, it absolutely can be 100 students that turn up, and that can be a bit of a daunting experience for teachers. We are currently working on a training manual that we will push out to all the registered teams. The thing that we bear in mind, though, is it's very different in every school. Ray's school in particular have 3 campuses, so they'll have a lot of kids they need to get through. Some schools will have a smaller number. What we don't do is tell schools how to do things. We understand that each school is complex and each school has its own set of understandings and own set of students, but we are definitely there to assist. So this training manual we're producing will be great. And don't forget, it's a different process for every game. So if you've got Mario Kart, that process might be different to Just Dance. But one thing Ray said that we find really useful is running those internal school competitions. It's a great way to bring people together. It's a great way to show the positives of esports. And you can do like house versus house or year level versus year level. You can even do teachers versus students in there for a bit of fun. So there's lots of different ways that you can build excitement around picking your team.
Yeah, fantastic. And my next question, excuse me, is related to the investment that the school has to make. Now, there's the monetary investment, which is signing up to Fuse and the equipment that you may need. But for Ray, this is probably more focused at you here. Is it from the educational side of it and the investment that you have to have yourself into the program? What does that look like? Time-wise, I suppose.
So time-wise, there's a little bit of thinking involved, definitely, especially with a school like Wesley, which is so large. I have done it in other schools as well, which weren't as big, which definitely is easier. But as the digital learning coach, I'm currently running it, and it's actually part of my role description moving forward as well. So that's excellent. But what I would recommend is if you have teachers or even the IT team, a lot of time get interested and excited about this. To get them involved, and if they've got a free hour here or there to help run a tournament, excellent. I also try and be strategic with my time by getting students as well to help out. So you've got people to organise the teams. So creating a form for people to register is a good start. Then getting an online tournament.
Like a schedule.
Yep. Excellent. And randomly slotting them in, and then giving them the dates, and running with it that way, and then thinking about what the different roles are. So for Just Dance, we did that as a group thing. So we needed a team of 4. So we let the students work out teams of 4 and spoke to the homeroom teachers to make sure that they can help out with that. And then we also for Mario Kart, we did it as an individual thing, and then the top 4 players ended up creating a team that way, moving forward.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. Now, Dan, in relation to the actual program and the investment around that, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so the registration cost is $750 per team per age group. So we have a year 5 and 6 competition, a year 7 and 8 competition, and a year 9 and 10 competition. And that's the only registration charge we imply for the year. So it's an annual registration fee per team, per age group. I think you'll have to help me out with the cost of the Switch, but I know CompNow have done an amazing job at bringing that cost right down. When I saw that first quote, I was like, whoa, that's awesome. So there's obviously a cost involved in terms of purchasing the hardware as well. But just going back to what Ray was saying in regards to the tryout process, most schools do it as a lunchtime co-curricular. So having a couple of teachers that give up, a couple of lunchtimes a week in those early stages while you've got a large group of students is really important. But then as you whittle it down, you probably need less kind of supervision. So generally we find that it takes schools about 3 to 4 weeks to prepare for a competition, and then they're ready to go.
I'll talk a little bit about the Switch bundles and how the schools can get into that, but essentially all it is that we've packaged up some really good solutions around the devices and the particular games that the schools may need, so we can talk about that later, or any of the viewers on there can ask questions in the chat by all means. The next thing I wanted to ask, Dan, is probably more directed at you. In the scenario where you've got a school that's won a competition or a term-based competition, you get to the national championships, what does that look like? Is there any travel involved, or do they do it all remotely, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a $1 million question, isn't it, in our current world of COVID? Generally, if I can talk about what it's like here in Queensland, simply because it's the largest state in terms of demographics. So this is what we look to replicate in other states. So we have multiple divisions here in Queensland. So if you win the Gold Coast Primary School Mario Kart Championship, then you have to go to the state finals, or you'll take on the Brisbane winner, the Ipswich winner, the Sunshine Coast winner. So then we have kind of like a championship event. We're looking at replicating that in other states, but obviously in our current climate, we can't guarantee that at the moment.
No.
So what it means for the winners in Victoria, that if you are the Victorian champion, then we will invite you to take on the Queensland champion. That might be in person or it might be online, just depending on the nature of which, next year rolls out.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you. And Ray, have you had any teams lucky enough to take part in those more state-based or national-based championships as yet?
Yeah, definitely. COVID interrupted the entire thing, but so there was a lot of stop-start. but we did get representation in the Just Dance competition, so the state one, and just absolutely brilliant. The professionalism, the way it's set up, because it could, it could seem quite chaotic, but we've got screens in different rooms, we've got teams ready to go. Dan puts up a projection that tells everybody where they're going, what rank people are at. So it's quite well organised, and you just go there and just have fun.
Yeah, right. How'd the team go, by the way?
They went really well. We didn't win. But
there's no photo of you with the trophy and the kids in the background?
Unfortunately, no. They went to the host school that time round.
Ooh, it's funny you say that. We have a collection of smug photos of coaches with trophies.
I'm sure you do.
Another back and forth here in Queensland.
Yeah. I can still see that photo that Jason took from the last competition. So
yeah,
it's something out on the interweb somewhere.
It is. It's on Twitter.
That's it. Well, Ray, for you heading into next year, I would assume that you're very well invested in the program and want to expand that out. What does it look like for you in 2022?
Yeah. So very much what we were doing this year, but also. Looking at it, because as Dan mentioned, we look at it as a co-curricular activity. So being able to expand it and get our 7s and 8s on board as well, because we started off with 5 and 6, which I think is a good tip as well. If you're not sure about how it's going to look, maybe start off with one team at one year level, and then expand it as you go, because you can jump in at any time. You can go for a full year with just the one registration, or you can within 6 months in semester 2 open it up to more. You're definitely going to have the students wanting to jump in and stopping you as they see you walking through the yard to ask you about it. And that's actually one of the things, if I can mention that quickly, just the rapport building, because I don't teach any classes at the moment in my role, but being able to build that rapport with the students through this has been excellent, and getting to know them by name and saying hello, and them wanting to come and just share stories just because they want to talk about it. It's there's not really a lot of questions or information that they need. They just want to talk, which I found is just so good.
So can I just jump in there? Sorry. So would you see that their level of engagement is increased by being involved in the program?
Their engagement in the program is just phenomenal. They're wanting to know about if I say, okay, we're going to be in the library in this room at this time, these are the teams, make sure you're there. They really want to be sure about any other questions that they might have. So completely involved, completely engaged. My wife is running it as well at her school, CRC North Keilor, and she's just introduced it, and they're also, because she's Year 7 coordinator as well, she's found that she's able to use that to help with behaviour management too. So, if you're going to be part of this, you're going to be representing the school, you need to really live those values during school time as well, not just when you're out there competing.
I think, well, as a parent, when I look at what my kids do around co-curricular, and I think having it as part of the co-curricular program is so vitally important, as opposed to just having something attached to the side of what they do on a day-to-day basis. I would assume, Dan, that those same comments that Ray just mentioned, you can mirror that nationally?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad it's come up in discussion, because not only do we hear that often, we also hear of schools, creating kind of behaviour contracts for players, which is just like would happen in any professional team. If you're part of our team, these are our expectations. And we've heard that happen nationally. We've also heard of things like improved attendance, improved academic results, saying you need to have an average grade of X, Y, and Z. We don't stipulate how schools implement the Fuse Cup, but we love hearing these stories of the positive outcomes that schools are getting by using the carrot, or using the love and passion for esports that students have to drive better behaviour and better achievement.
Yeah, great.
And that also, if I can add, goes into their personal time too. So, I tell the students, don't go home and tell your parents that you have to study by playing video games, or train by playing video games, because that's not what it's about. It's and to make sure that they see it as part of their experience at the college, and their learning journey, not to focus on it too much and to the point of putting other important things.
We have a player code of conduct in which we're very, very careful that the parents have to read, and it does stipulate these are our expectations of your student, and it clearly says it's not about playing more, it's about utilizing their time effectively and being smarter players. So we know students can try and pull the wool over their parents' eyes. I've got to train, I've got to play Xbox.
Yes,
So
I'm probably one of those parents, but yeah.
Yeah,
that information goes out to schools and must be signed by parents and students that they have understood what our expectations are of them as participants in the Fuse Cup.
Yeah, and,
awesome.
and Dan tackles this. I'm thinking back to the tournament that we're at this year. With he interjects with online safety and information about being aware about games. So even things like gaming addiction was discussed, and I was able to then extend on that later on with the students, where Dan spoke to them about how game designers and developers and app developers do deliberately try to keep you in, design their games to try and keep you in there as long as possible. So to make students aware of that, and what those tricks are and how they try to exploit the way we think, then we're talking about student thinking, and making thinking visible is a big deal for me as an educator, but also at Wesley as well. So we capitalise on that and make sure that what's your behaviour, why is it that way, what's your thinking behind that, and how have you been affected, and how have the games maybe affected you that way.
Yeah, that's really good. That was actually going to lead me on. It's a great segue into my next question. Was around reflection post an event or an activity. So obviously you're doing that. Do you want to talk to that more about how you actually have structured engagements with students post an event? Or Dan, if you wanted to comment on that around the sort of reflections that people have post an event, again about the health and wellbeing or mindfulness around esports, and what that looks like.
Definitely, yeah. So. Once the tournament's over, then it's not the end, because you've developed that relationship. There are more coming up, so you're still with the students. So when I do have them together and we get to talk about how the day went and the rest, like I was saying earlier, sometimes you've got to lift their spirits a little bit if they feel a bit down, they didn't get in, or they didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. Make sure that they're aware that their efforts of
not being in vain, or
absolutely, yes, thank you, exactly, but if they did win as well, being able to celebrate with them, being able to celebrate the fact that they got in to the tournament too, or they got to the rank that they got to. So all of that, of course, is part of what we like to
awesome.
discuss with them.
Dan, did you want to add anything to that? Yep.
I mean, I'm listening to Ray, and I'm just thinking of any other traditional sport. It's the same kind of thing. You go to a competition, you lose, you feel dejected, or you win, you feel elated. It's exactly the same with esports. We've spent a lot of time in the development of our digital wellbeing resources in partnership with the Kids Helpline. So talking to students about disappointment and talking to them about feeling, elated when you win, but how you deal with that is actually a lot about character. So we tie that into our value of integrity, and we talk a lot about that during the competition. We've also worked with the Kids Helpline. They've developed a program called Kids Helpline at School. So all participants and schools that are registered from the Fuse Cup can contact the Kids Helpline at any time, either before a competition or even after a competition, to get a one-on-one session with their team. And it could be about, well, how do I deal with being disappointed, or how do I prepare mentally for a competition, or how do I build resilience around loss? So all of these things are available to schools through our partnership with the Kids Helpline.
Yeah, fantastic.
And sorry,
no, go for it, Ray. Go for it. Absolutely.
And you've got to remember that it's a traditional thing that you do with other sports and other competitions, but it's not the same group of students that would be represented there. So they get to experience this. Yep. A lot of them for the first time.
Yeah. No, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Dan, a question for you. In relation to pathways with esports, we know that it doesn't just stop at being part of it in schools. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like potentially as a next step for a participant outside of school?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that it's a booming industry. We know it's a $180 billion industry with pathways leading into, you name the vocation. So there's a lot of schools who are starting to look at, well, how do we prepare students for roles in esports? Those year 9 and 10 students are a little bit more interested in taking this on. So there are schools developing curriculum around that. And there's just a whole different approach to the ways in which students can be engaged, especially in those years where disengagement is very high. So being able to offer esports as a way to get students back involved and engaged, and working through, what does it take to run a tournament? What video production skills do I need if I'm going to be a streamer or a caster? What about if I want to promote an esports competition? Like, what kind of marketing skills do I need? If I'm actually going to run this as a business, what are the business skills? What are the legal implications around copyright and so forth? So there's multiple vocations that are tied to esports that people are just starting to look at for ways in which they can re-engage students who might be a little bit disengaged.
Another question for you, Dan. I know that the platform uses a Nintendo Switch, which is a very cost-effective solution compared to others in the market. Are you able to address the questions as to why you're on Switch as opposed to Xbox or PlayStation, etc., or PC?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we started the Fuse Cup, Nintendo Switch was our first choice because of the fact that it is a kid-friendly console. It's plug and play, so in terms of digital skills required, you just need to plug it into the power and plug it in, HDMI. Anyone can do that in the school. Yep. It also means you can have 4 players playing at once. So in a school where you've got lots of people participating, being able to have 4 players compete through that training process is really important. But really, it's because it's low cost and super simple, and the games are family friendly.
All right, Dan, another one for you. 2022, it's not far away. How's the program looking for next year?
Yeah, it's looking to be very exciting. We've got a whole number of new schools joining. So we've got registrations and inquiries daily coming through. We've been able to secure our live dates. So our dates for the 2022 season are on our website, thefusecup.com.au, under the competition page. But we also have a whole bunch of international competitions as well that anyone can participate in. So the first one is an international Just Dance competition, and the details are found on our website. So yeah, if you have any questions, just go to our website, thefusecup.com.au. Or get in contact with CompNow or myself, and we'll help you out.
Just one quick question there, Dan. In relation to the international piece, because we didn't really touch on that earlier. So are you saying that a student, let's say from Wesley, under Ray's fine tutelage, will be able to compete with international students as well?
100%, yeah. So we have an Australia and Asia heat, so they'll be able to participate against students from international schools in Asia. We're also running a UK schools heat, and then we're running a Europe schools heat. So the winners of each of those demographics will then play off in a world championship.
That was really good. Now, Ray, question for you. If you were talking to another person from another school in a similar role to you, what would be your elevator pitch as to why they should be involved in Fuse?
Oh, well, I find it difficult to say why you wouldn't want to be involved, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
If you be careful not to mention it in front of students if you're not going to do it.
Right.
Put it that way.
Right.
Right. If you say that this is going to happen or this might happen, then you will be inundated. Students will be stopping you and asking you questions, emailing you, really excited and interested. So there's a lot of energy that this creates, and a lot of opportunity for wellbeing conversations to be had, and some wellbeing strategies to be implemented.
Yep.
Through that as well. So. It's a gold mine and it's untapped. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Dan's the first to do this. Actually, well, I'm not surprised that Dan's done it because I think it's quite a innovative thing to be doing. But it's untapped potential that Dan's tapping into now and making it available for the rest of us. I think is brilliant. And again, I think it's that well-being side of it would be the focus of an elevator pitch, I think.
That actually, just before I go to my next question, I will just want to dive into that for a little bit. You talked about having kids coming up to you and asking what's going on. Do you see that anywhere else, like in other subjects? No, don't want to try to sound biased here, but do you see that, I don't hear of it, as a parent. I mean, I'm not an educator, as I said earlier, but to have that level of enthusiasm and, want to be part of it, do you see it anywhere else in the school?
Yeah, well, I've run different programs in different schools, but it's not to this level.
Yep.
This level of excitement. Let me give you an example. My son is in grade 5 at the moment, and he's wanted it at his school as well. So he went for the school captain.
The role,
yep. Right? So he gave a talk,
yep.
and he actually mentioned that if he's selected, then he'd want to
Oh,
bring in.
it's one of his election promises.
It was one of his, it was his election
right.
promise.
Right.
And he said, and they've got buddies, so they've got preps who are buddies with them. And I said, oh, that's, well done. How did you go afterwards? And he told me, and he said, his best mate Luke has a buddy in prep. And he said he went after Diego. Diego's my son. He went after Diego and said to him, "Oh, I ended up voting for you, not for my buddy, because of the esports. I really want to play the video games."
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Did he get in?
We don't know.
Oh, don't know. Fingers
I
crossed.
think
Right.
out today,
Watch
so
this
we'll
space.
see.
Watch this space. Watch this space.
Now
Now,
you can recount the votes.
yeah, that's
true.
exactly right. It's exactly right. So, just a bit of a light-hearted question. So, what's your favourite game of the current rotation with Fuse?
Currently, I have to say Rocket League.
Right, and do you get smashed by the kids, or do you hold your own?
I can hold my own, actually.
I know a very sentimental moment for me is when my kids started beating me at Mario Kart. It brought a tear to the eye. What about yourself, Ray? Have you got any stories like that?
Yeah. I growing up, I was the best at video games in the family.
Yep.
But that's quite insular now that things are online and there are tournaments and the rest of it. I get my rear end kicked a fair bit, but my son, by my son that is, he's overlapped me.
Yep.
So he's better at all games.
So now you're the coach for a reason.
So now I'm
Creating pro players. That's right.
That's
That's
it.
right. And Dan, I know we've had a few stories about how you try to take on some of the kids at the events as well.
Yeah, I think tried was the the verb that we use. I only did that a couple of times and then realised that I was well out of my league. So I don't profess to be an expert gamer. I know that I'll get absolutely demolished by a lot of the kids we have in the Fuse Cup. So it's a bit embarrassing when you're running a tournament and you get done like that in front of lots of kids. So I don't do that anymore.
Now, Dan, a question for you. I know that you focus very heavily on the non-violent nature of the games that are part of Fuse. I know that Smash Brothers is one of the games that's in the rotation, and a couple of questions have been asked previously around the supposed violent nature in that game. I know you went through a very rigorous process of including that in the rotation. Do you want to talk to that a little bit for us?
Yeah, look, it took a long time for us to even consider that. Our stance is that especially shooting games have no place in school-based esports. It's still representing their school. So that level of violence, even if it's animated cartoon violence, like something like Fortnite, I'm just not comfortable with as an educator, and I don't feel as though I'm prepared to risk my integrity in having something like that, especially when esports is in its infancy and we want more schools involved. So for that reason, we've chosen non-violent games. However, when it comes to Super Smash Brothers, we realize that it's a very, very popular game. And we also realize that it's cartoon fighting. We always respect the age classifications, and we know that people in year 9 and 10 are well above the age restriction for Super Smash Brothers. It took us about a year to consider it. We had, conversations with the kids' helpline around what does this mean? Would we be supported if we were to introduce that? So we're comfortable in that we're offering a game that has an age classification that our students in year 9 and 10 are older than, and they like to participate in. So we still represent the fact that we're not having any first-person shooters in the Fuse Cup, and that's never going to change. But we do have Super Smash for the older students, and only the older students. We have year 7 and 8 who want to play it. We have year 5s and 6s who want to play it. Our position is that's not happening. It will only happen in year 9 and 10 when you're old enough to play that game.
Yeah, thanks for that one. That's a really, really good answer, actually, because I think that it is a big thing, because there's a lot of talk about, I know from parents, we might talk to other parents that probably aren't as digitally aware, I suppose, as others out there, and their kids are playing shooting games, and they put them all into the same bucket, and they hear the way that they can react about playing that when playing those games, and I think that's a really good way that you've addressed that. Thanks for that. So I think, look, that's all we've got time for today. I'd like to really thank Ray for coming down to the office in Melbourne, and Dan for joining us virtually. So if there's any more questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll attend to them as soon as we can, and we'll come back to you. There will be a circulation of an email post the event anyway with the winner of the prize. But if you'd like any more information, please contact your CompNow account manager or info@compnow.com.au. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Ray.
Cheers. Thank you.